Welcome to this edition of A New Economic Reality with the Money Charmers. I am one of your hosts, LaTonya Taylor Bay, and we have with us Subira Folami, Sensei Subira, and we also have Sandra Chaney. And so today we're going to be sharing with you from some more money charmer principles from the topic of let's make new money, M.O.N.E.Y. And we thought this was very with the money charmers. I am one of your hosts from somewhere, Taylor Bay, and we have with us Subira closing out everything. Sensei Subira. And we also have Sandra Chaney. And so today we're going to be sharing with you.
Do you all hear the feedback?
Some many principle until I eliminate it. Somewhere. Let's make new. Okay, so we're going to get started today sharing with you some of the principles that we have collaborated to bring some new meaning to the way that we are positioning ourselves to create new money, a new money flow in our lives. And one of the things that we've been talking about, just as a quick summary, is money, M-O.N.E.Y. So when we use that term, we are always talking about my natural energy yield. We're coming from the place of inside out with some real tangible steps that you can take with us at the end of the broadcast. And so hopefully this broadcast will be filled with some action steps. And one of the things that I'd like to share with you, the first principle perhaps, is let's talk about creating new money, but let's also talk about a new money story. And your money story matters. That's principle number one. Your money story matters. And how I know is I remember a time in my life when I was actually working a part of my vision, which was to create some additional income. And I did multi-level marketing. And I invested my savings in a multi-level marketing venture. I liked the way that I was getting some education. I really believed in the product. And I remember going through a period where it was not working. I was working the business. I was using the formula. I had built up a team. I was working with a team. And I was forced to really look at, oh my goodness, I may have to go back to work, because I'd used my savings. I had the support of family and friends, but nobody could shift me but me, because something was not flowing. And I remember that I was working this business with my whole heart and mind, and I was getting sick. I literally was starting to become more and more ill, because inside I'm wondering, well, what's going on? Because I do wholeheartedly believe that I create my own reality. And as I went to someone who is a millionaire and got some coaching around money, what my current reality was. Well, one of the things that her work helped me to do was to see how you can't look just at your current reality. You have to use your current reality to look at what the past conversation or story was. And of course, as I was getting over the idea that I might have to go back to work, Barbara Stanley is one of the authors that I recommend, but she says how sometimes you have to have a bridge job, a job that will get you over to the other side. And I really didn't want to go back to work if I were to look at my why, but I went back anyway. But I knew something in me needed to shift in order for me to attract what it is that I said that I wanted. and also to create what was in my heart. Well, one big thing that I had to get to the bottom of, I wasn't really doing what I was called for. Spirit clearly said to me, if you're just trying to get the money flowing, that's not going to work for you. You have to know who you are at your core and how you are going to contribute to the world. If you're just doing something just to get some ends, sometimes it's going to create the frustration and the stagnation. And I remember Sandra and I were in this business together, and we were talking because we knew we were working the business. And we shared with them. One of the things Sandra shared with me that I'll never forget, and I'm going to get to the money story again, but she said she talked to someone, and I'm sure you can pick up on this, that said, when you are working in what you have been called to do, you may stretch, but you won't strain.
Yes.
Oh my God, that blessed me so much because we were straining and we were starting to wonder what we were doing wrong. But at the end of the day, I still needed to get back into my flow. Well, I knew as a coach, as a spiritual life coach, I knew understanding money, what money meant, that I was going to have to do the work within. And I remember I had to go to my money story, Barbara Stanley. I had to go to my money story. And your money story matters. When we talk about financial matters, your money story matters. And I can remember as a little girl, my mother is very savvy with money. And she's quite an abundant woman, in my opinion, in the way that she's always approached things. From a traditional standpoint, no less. But she would always say, girl, you're going to balance this checkbook. You're going to see what's going in and coming out of here and what I have to do. Da, 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 da. So I did balance checkbooks and I did a few other things, wrote out some things for my mother. But the way that it came to me was punishment. I felt punished. I felt as though I was being chastised. And so here I am, a young lad, starting to create a money story and grow in my relationship with, I don't want to deal with numbers. I'm not good with numbers. That became a part of the story. Anytime I got ready to sit down to deal with my own finances, I could feel the cringe in my spirit. So I had, you can relate? Y'all can relate to that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So that's amen and out.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I'll wrap this up because I'm sure you all probably could share something, along this line. But I literally had to reposition my relationship with money and start creating another story, not just with money, but with math, with finances, with being in relationship with myself as it related to my internal abundance, trusting my own ability to be able to say, I can and I will, I do and I have, I shall and I am. I had to shift my conversation because I will tell you this, ladies, how it carries over is we carry over waiting for someone to come and rescue us and take care of the money.
God.
Yes.
I'm high-fiving in the air. High five. Yes.
Particularly in marriage. And what we are waiting for is someone to come and save us, to be our ATM, to be the accountant, to do for us what we have been unwilling to do for ourselves. And so I'll segue. I'm sure there's more I could share, but I will segue over to you ladies and
Wow.
Sandra, go ahead and jump.
I have to.
I see it in you. Go ahead, take it away.
Because This is such good stuff, LaTonya. I'm sitting in my chair just like getting antsy because what you're alluding to is money archetypes. You're alluding to that, and so I'm sitting here because I can relate to everything that you're saying. At least your mother set you down with a checkbook. I never saw what a checkbook looked like until I became an adult. So I didn't even know how to balance a checkbook. I saw my parents put money in a jar. I saw my grandmother put money under a mattress. You know, that was my first introduction to money and what money was like. So I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. I didn't know anything. And my money story is that my parents I used to have to justify why I needed a pair of shoes. I had to justify why I needed, because I was the oldest. And so I always had to justify if I needed a pair of sneakers, it had to be for a good reason. It couldn't be just because they were cute and I wanted a pair of sneakers. Wow. I had to justify to my parents. So I was made to feel like I was not worthy, you know, to receive, you know, those shoes. So consequently, when I got older, I said, when I make my own money, can't nobody tell me what to do with my money, how I'm going to spend it, how much to spend on the shoe. So let me tell you guys, I used to spend outrageous amount of money on clothes and shoes. Now, not because I was rich, because back in the day, remember y'all could float a check? I was the check floater. I would be like, okay, so in the day, you know, a check would take maybe 3 to 5 days to cash. So I'll get paid on Friday. So if I go on Monday, that's how I did it. And I would spend money like crazy on clothes because of that not feeling worthy. And so I didn't understand that all stemmed from my parents telling me, you know, making me feel that I was unworthy and not knowing how to balance a checkbook. I knew nothing about saving. I didn't save. As soon as I got it, I spent it. That was my money story. However, as I got older, I recognized that didn't work anymore because now you can't float checks. No. Now, and the era of debit cards and all these other things, you can't do that anymore. So some years ago, before even Juicy Spirit, I attended a class, and in this class, this woman was talking about money archetypes, and that piqued my interest because I'm like, well, what's a money archetype? And you know, and she was telling the different types of archetypes, and then fast forward, I guess the Lord must have thought I needed it again because in Juicy Spirits, LaTonya Taylor talked about archetypes and things like that once again. So I'm like, okay, God, let me get this down, because honestly, until you understand who you are, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So whatever your relationship with is money, it's the same way with love. It's the same way with relationships. It's the same way with everything. So you have to understand who you are. And thanks to Subira, she turned me on to a book, and the name of the book is called Money Magic. And in that book, she talks about the different archetypes. And I went through the book to refresh my memory because as LaTonya was talking, I'm like, yep, that's me. I can relate to that. And the first archetype that LaTonya, honestly, and I'm not saying this is her, but this is what this archetype says, is called the innocent. And the innocent often lives in denial. Overwhelmed by financial information, pretends not to see what is going on around them. I can relate to all of that. Depends on the advice and opinions of others. Very trusting, and I was very trusting. If you said it, I believed it. That settled it. That's just how it was for me. Fear of abandonment. I had major fear of abandonment because growing up, I felt unworthy. I felt like, you know, I wasn't worthy of those pair of shoes. And, you know, if my sisters or somebody else needed something, then of course I was the last to get it. So to me, that was like being abandoned. So abandonment. Does not express feelings and beliefs. I kept everything in. I never shared anything with anybody, and always seeking security. I was always seeking security, and even though I wanted to be independent, I didn't want to be independent. I was sometimes very dependent on other people. So like LaTonya said, she had to go within. Well, that's what you're going to have to do to shift that paradigm, is you have to go within. You have to tap into your own power. You got to find the security and the knowledge of owning your own capabilities. I had to understand who I was, What am I capable of doing? How gifted am I? Because we all come with gifts. We all come with gifts. So you have to trust in your own capabilities. And I was always seeking the opinions of others, saying, did I do that well? Was this good? Because I sought that from my parents and I didn't get it. So I was always seeking outside of myself when actually it's already within you. I'm only going to do like a couple in the interest of time, because there's a lot. According to this particular book, there are 8, but I'm pretty sure there's more than 8. But I'm only going to give you about 2 or 3. And so for the innocent, you have to tap in. So I started tapping in. Juicy Spirits for me was a way of tapping in, because even though my money story was getting better, I still had some issues around money because it wasn't showing up the way that I wanted it to show up. And I was grinding versus flowing. I was stressing versus being in the flow. So even if it's a money, what the time was talking about, that whole MLM thing or whatever you're doing, it's not going to flow if you're stressing. And I stress all the time. Yep. So it wasn't necessarily the MLM that I was doing, the level marketing. It was me. It was me. I wasn't yielding my own natural energy. I wasn't doing that. And so you have to learn how to do that. The next one is the victim. And the victim always lives in the past and is always blaming other people for their financial problems. They have passive aggressive behavior, meaning they're always expressing their feelings indirectly versus in a direct way. They act powerless and innocent so they can get other people to do for them what they won't do for themselves. They're highly emotional, financially irresponsible, resentful, and always have a need to be rescued. And they have a lot of anger. I'm sure we know I'm sure some bells are going off in your head, because we have some friends. I know I have some people that I know that can relate to this. In order for them to shift, they must acknowledge and understand and begin to heal their wounds. They first got to acknowledge that they're wounded. They don't want to acknowledge that they're wounded. It's as if the past is the past and it's easy for them to stay there. So they have to acknowledge true transformation takes place when you can travel to the root of the problem. There's that root, Subira. The root. When you the root. When you can travel to the root of the problem and begin to release and forgive yourself first, and then others, you can begin to transfer and shift from the victim into the victor, because you are victorious, and your money will start coming to you naturally, because money, as Tonia already said, is energy. And I don't care if it's money, if it's love, it's relationship, it is not going to come to you naturally if you're staying in the past. Then we have the martyr, of which I can relate to this. I think that we have a secondary, and I think we have 2. I think the secondary for me is the martyr.
No, we do. We actually have, when all of these archetypes are very much connected to our astrology chart.
Yes.
It's connected to prototypes of personality typing, the Enneagram. So when we say man, woman, child, know thyself, we all have primaries, secondaries. We even have other minor players that become activated when the main one happens. So it's true. It's true.
Yes, because the martyr is one that takes care of the needs of everybody else. Now, that would be me, because I was the oldest. And I always was taking care of everybody else but myself. And we as women, though, do that naturally. We just do. We take care of everybody else, and we make ourselves last. The martyr is a rescuer, always trying to rescue somebody out their problems. Sometimes their gifts comes with attachment, meaning that you give something, but you're expecting that when you give it, you're going to get something back in return. And when we don't get it back in return, then we feel let down. We feel like the person didn't meet our expectations, because we put an expectation on whatever that gift or whatever it was that we were doing, as opposed to just doing it freely and just giving because that's just what we want to do. A martyr can be controlling, long-suffering, self-sacrificing, a caretaker, a perfectionist. Yeah, I've been told that sometimes I act like Monk. I don't know if you guys remember the show Monk, but Monk, Monk was the person that everything had to be straight and all the numbers had to be, yeah, if something is out of whack, I can tell. And that used to be me. I would go back and move it. Or if I'm vending my books and the books had to be even amount of numbers, that was me. Perfectionist will keep you from doing stuff. Perfectionism will stop you from doing stuff. We struggle with attachment to negative experiences. It's like if something bad happened, I had a hard time in letting go. That's a martyr. They have a hard time in letting go of negative experiences. But in order to shift, you got to shift your focus. You got to release. All that negative energy. You have to be willing to see the cup full and not half empty. Some people used to say, don't see it half. Where is it? Don't see it half empty. See it half full. I say see it full. Because if that's the case, I'm still giving. You're still taking from my cup because my cup isn't full. I say you need to have a full cup, not a half empty or a half full. Make it a full cup because then they're getting your overflow. That's what you want to give them is your overflow. Then also release attachments. We attach ourselves. I know I used to. Like if someone, I never kept count of anything, but I always put expectations on people which were not fair to them. And that's what a model does. They put expectations on people that are not fair to them. So you have to be able to release that. And the one thing that this author said, which I believe is so true, is that once a model heals her wounds, they become gifted healers and powerful manifestors. Am I saying that right?
Manifestors.
Thank you. There you go. I'm tongue-tied. Thank you, sisters. Manifestors. They become good. And so you want to let go because you have the power to heal. It's within you. And so we have to let go of some of these expectations. And so I'm not, it's a long list. I just wanted to give you a few of those. There's many more than that. But that's just enough to whet your appetite. I told you mine because the innocent and the martyr. I think that I don't know which one is my primary and which one's the secondary. I think they overlap. But what I would say is understand what your money archetype is. That's a part of understanding how you do money too. It's a part of understanding your personality and all the other things. And that way you can begin to yield your money naturally. And I'm going to let Subira jump in there, so I won't keep going.
It's all right. We're going to make our way back around a second time. But greetings to everybody. Again, I just want to say thank you for being here, spending your lunch half hour or hour with us. Yep. So today, as I've said, we're talking about let's make new money. And I want to begin where my sisters began, which is the beginning, our story, my story. And I, too, Sandra, am the oldest. And much like you, I didn't see a checkbook until I was in college. And I was bouncing checks all over the place. And I remember one of my most humbling, and at the time, I considered it humiliating. It wasn't humbling, it was humiliating to have to go to a bank, walk into the bank and sit down with, one of the representatives and ask them to show me how to balance a checkbook because I had never learned. I did not understand. So, I'm out in this world at a university where I'm taking on student loan debt which, is tens of thousands of dollars, and I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. So,
wow.
So for me there was that unworthy, like I was faking it till faking it and hoping I would make it before people found out I was faking. Wow. It was really, really something. The archetype that I know I operated from, and I think, as you said, LaTonya, there's two at the very least, but a tertiary one I know that I operated with. To begin with, I am a warrior. From the gate, out the womb, I probably came out fighting. And that showed up, like you said, Sandra, whatever you do, how you do anything is how you do everything.
That's right.
And so I came at money and earning money with an energy of fight. Like I had to get the money, get the money, get the money. You know, I was in college. I was one of them kids working 3 jobs. You know, I was always on the hustle, always on the grind. And those were the words I used, hustle and grind. There was no such thing as flow. I was in a battle to get that dollar. You know?
Yes.
And you know, a fight as I matured. Then I realized I became a martyr as I got into relationships, you know, intimate relationships. I realized that I also had this martyr archetype working, where I wanted to save and woe is me and I don't know how, and you know, and that was about irresponsibility. Really, I could not respond because I had never been taught how to respond. So, you know, so there's a distinction between I'm irresponsible just because I know how and I don't want to do it. And literally, I was never taught how to respond to money except for fear. I grew up in a house where there was fighting going on all the time between my parents, specifically as it related to money. So that aggressiveness and that feeling that there's never enough, so you got to fight for it, you got to keep it, you got to hoard it, you got to hide it. That was what I came to adulthood with operating in the background for me. So moving forward, understanding that our money story matters and that everything we do actually matters. And I mean literally the word matters. I mean becomes solid, becomes form, becomes real.
Correct. Yes.
It literally begins to take shape and form where you can touch it. It matters. The story that I grew up with, that was indoctrinated in me, that I thought about, that I held in my heart, that I hustled from in my gut. Next thing I know, I'm living in the reality of that story. And it was a grind. And I think it set the stage for the experience. I made a perfect embodiment, environment for toxicity. That was how it mattered inside me. That's how it mattered out in my world, that I was always on the hustle, always on the grind. So I did come to know that that things would exist in this reality, and that I wanted to take responsibility. And I always, LaTonya, where you would say, I can't remember exactly what your words were. Oh, I'm not a math person. Right? Yes. I said, oh, I'm a liberal arts person. I love history and writing and arts, and you know, so that was my fallback too. I'm a liberal arts person in college. I don't know nothing about these math business. But I was I was also an entrepreneur, and that meant I had to come to terms and develop a healthy relationship with math and with numbers, because now I like numbers when it came to business. Don't get it twisted. And somehow I could do numbers and do math if it meant I was going to make some money. But the place I was coming from was that of a warrior versus a magician. And when I finally, you know, that dawning, that awakening happened in me, that I could take that warrior energy, I could take that martyr energy, and I could begin to shift it and begin to create magic, begin to actually change, starting with changing my story, changing the energy of the doing. You know, you have to take action. That's what your solar plexus is about, your will. So, but how was I taking action? All of that began to shift.
That's good.
And so what I want to bring to this conversation today are some foundational principles that where manifesting this tangible money, how I began to do that. So I've got 5 or 6 principles here, 5 that I want to walk you through. And the first one in terms of making new money is pay yourself first in real money. Okay, we talked about that. I think we touched on it in the very first episode, but I want to go a little deeper now. So to create that new economic reality, to begin to manifest that, it can be done in 30 days, but we've got to get out of the illusion, which is actually a way to kind of, how do I want to say this, be justified in being in not being able to respond financially. It's justified if you don't have real money. That when a situation comes up, you can't respond to it financially. Well, I don't have real money, so it's not my fault. Well, you've been on this show with us for a week, 2, 3 weeks. You can't say that anymore. That excuse has been taken from you. So at least once a month, converting the illusion of money into real money. That's the first step. When I started to do that in my 20s and started to feel this sense of security, because that's the first level. You got to feel anchored and rooted and secure and safe, right? You got to know that when retirement comes, whatever that looks like for you, that you can do that, right? You got to know that when it comes time to send your children to college, or yourself to college for that matter, that you can respond to that desire. Business startup, creating a home purchase, and here's an important one: creating liquidity the same day you need it. If all you're operating with is fiat money and you run out of fiat money, you cannot create liquidity when you need it. However, if you have real money stored up in a safe place and you need to be able to respond quickly within that same day, or at least 24 hours, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to be liquid with a hefty lion's share chunk of fiat money that you can circulate to take care of whatever you may need. But the beginning part of that is you've got to begin to pay yourself first in those real monies. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, you want to then generate an income that is independent of a job and that is aligned with your avocation. We spoke last week about the avocation. I love the way that feels at the beginning. Something that makes you feel like,
yes,
vocation, okay? Something that actually makes you like, vocation. Yoga does that for me, right? So my coaching business is designed around supporting people to stretch and grow and go deeper, and I use yoga as a metaphor for that. So begin to generate an income that is aligned with the truth of who you are, and that is aligned with something that is going to make you go, as you earn an income. Okay, number three, pay off debt that doesn't serve you. And this debt stands between you and your Okay?
That's good.
If the debt does not, now I'm not saying that all debt is bad debt, right? There is some debt that can be used to forward your intention, to forward your goals, to forward your vision. But if the debt that you're paying on actually is a hindrance, if it sucks up your time, your energy, your money circulating, then that means it is standing in between your vocation.
And Subira, I just have to say this really quickly. The idea of debt also gets to be shifted, because I know many traditional teachers talk about paying off, and so people get frustrated because they've been paying on something. And what if I told you, which I will not go into extensively on Facebook, but what if I told you what you consider a debt is really an asset?
Right.
And I will say this, we have to shift how we see ourselves as individuals versus seeing ourselves the way that corporations see themselves. That's the nugget I will drop there, because individuals pay off debt. Corporations shift assets.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, yes.
I didn't know we were ready to go that deep quite yet.
I
So,
just said I'll put it out there.
so that's a little nugget that gives you guys something to come back for, because you know there is much more. We are right now at the tip of the iceberg, y'all. The tip of the iceberg. And I want to ensure that we are talking to people where they're at today. And I want you all to know, we want you to know that there is so much more that we have in store for you when you hang with us in future episodes, because there's a lot more than where these came from.
Or talk to us privately.
Pardon?
Or talk to us privately.
Yes, or talk to us privately. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's go to number 4. Number 4 is begin, once you have done the 3 that I just spoke of, then you want to begin to stretch and move into a vision of a life that actually aligns with the truth of who you are at your root, at your core. It aligns with your values, aligns with your passions, aligns with the things you naturally are inclined to do, skills that you may have developed over the last 10, 20, 30 years that you know you're good at, but for some reason you don't know how to actually convert that into currency, right? But you can. So that's number 4. Number 5 is building, creating, or even recreating a simple business system that will bring your vision to the marketplace. I'll say that again. So create, recreate, because some of you have already got a business system. So we want to show you how to recreate the business system that you have into something that is simple, that is cost effective, and that will bring your vision to the marketplace quickly. Listen, guys, with the advent of the internet and with Facebook, with YouTube, with a couple of other tools that are free or very close to free, you literally can create a system, a foundation, a frame, a structure to deliver your business, your ideas, your mission, your vision to the marketplace, to the folks who are looking specifically for your voice, your talent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my share today on.
But if you could summarize your 5 steps into one, since each one of us are giving one principle today.
That principle
how could you? What would you name it as?
Sure.
I know we're talking about creating new money, and just a quick wrap up. I talked about your money story matters. Sandra talked about know your money archetype. What would you say your one principle is today?
Yes, so as I started with, it's focusing on the foundation.
Focusing on the foundation. That is so good.
Yes, it is.
So good.
Foundation. And all 5 of those pieces are foundational pieces. Once you get your story, then you can start building and creating or deconstructing what you've created and recreate.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, because that's a very powerful statement, is that, we tend to want to just start building in the emergency. Someone said a lack of preparation on my part does not constitute an emergency, or a lack of preparation on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And oftentimes we run our lives on adrenaline. And so when we are exhausted and tired and worn out, even about the internal conversations that we have about real things that are happening, or those that we've weighted as real, such as money and finances, we find ourselves to be burnt out, stretched out, oftentimes with a physical effect. And I know, Subira, each one of us is talking about an emotional aspect that has manifested in our life in different ways. You shared something very powerful about your cancer story, and I like how you took it and made the cancer part CAN.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
want to share anything about that?
Yeah, I do actually. You know, the further I get away from the the months of treatment, and I can kind of see um, a broader view, a more, I guess, a more aerial, global view of cancer. It actually is now, time is your very best friend. Let me tell you that. Time and space have been my very best friend because it has allowed me to see cancer as a gift. And I know that probably sounds so strange, but it has gifted me with new eyes, and it has shown me what I can do. When I was at a space where I had literally nothing and I thought, am I even going to make it to the next day?
Mm.
I had to sit, and the next day came and I was like, well, I guess I can. Well, I guess I can. Everything that I told myself I couldn't do, from these pretzel type postures in yoga, to rebuilding my finances, to rebuilding a business, to working on relationships, to letting go of some of the people that I loved most dearly so that I could grow even more. I realized with each step I took, with each breath I took, cancer gave me the opportunity to slow down, restructure my life, and see what I actually can do. So I look at it as, yeah, I can. There's not a lot of
And that
fear that operates in me anymore because of there's still some places, but I was operating completely on fear 3-4 years ago.
Mm.
Not so much. I'm not afraid of a lot of things today that I used to be afraid of. I know that
Yeah, but it was showing up as fight. It was showing
Mhm.
up as
Mhm.
Because I was a
fighting
warrior.
for.
I was a warrior.
You were a warrior, and many of us, even in the feminine, we pride ourselves on being fighters. And I know that
Mhm.
those who have embraced more of their feminine don't want to even fight with cancer. You don't want to fight with fibroids. You don't want to fight with these things. Look at the language, ladies. You know what I'm saying? Like, no pain, no gain. Business after pleasure. No, what I'm here definitely to represent is the pleasure in business, the pleasure of business, the being in business, and mixing it all together, because um, what Subira opens up for us for an action step as far as looking at your money story, looking at your archetypes, is to sit down and take a moment and go back to your earliest memory. Get a journal. Keep a journal if you're going to be watching this broadcast. Um, and when we say certain things that are action steps outside of the concrete, reach out to us afterwards. Do your work. Like, do the work. Don't just
Mm.
be entertained. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Mhm.
so sit down, spend some time, and go back to your earliest memory as it relates to money, whether it be asking for money, having to deal with money. Start, if you have to, in your memory. Why don't I like math, or why did I resist? Why do I avoid? These are key questions that could help jog your memory. And Barbara Stanley says that she believes that most of women's difficulties with money has very little to do with money and everything to do with our ambivalence about power. And I
Ooh,
want to,
that's nice. That's nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
because many of us are ambivalent also about our feminine power, because we
Hmm.
haven't seen femininity as power.
Right.
We've seen
Right.
femininity as weakness, as that we don't believe that we can get anything with softness. That if we're having too much fun, then it can't be pleasurable, it can't be lucrative. We have hard wires as it relates to our whole relationship with money and even achievement, because many of you who have advanced degrees, many of us who have gone on and done advanced work, um, we tend to believe that You know, I had to stop my life in order to get this master's or to get this PhD. And so we even have it wired up hard about how we have to do things. And I will say this, even beyond the money story is underneath a God story. If you have a hell and fire brimstone God, then oftentimes how we relate to our power, our ability to connect to our womanhood is also harsh, punitive. It is, I gotta earn it. If you are still trying to earn brownie points with God, if you are still trying to earn, and listen, this is power. This is really, really important in your repositioning yourself for abundance, because if you're still earning, if you have a master-slave relationship, even with your God concept, then you may want to dive in to see how you can even reposition that. And that is what it begins with, because in order for you to birth the thing, all of us to birth it, we have to sometimes we have to be called on it. But if you live in a process of introspection, you already know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good.
And Tonia, I want to jump in there and just say, one of the other growth areas for me when dealing, with cancer was, and still is, understanding this whole idea of fight especially around breast cancer. It's all about fighting breast cancer and women warriors in pink, and but it's so strange, because there's nothing, the imagery that they give us, it's confusing if you sit back and look at it. There's nothing soft about breast cancer, but they use this beautiful billowy pink ribbon. And believe you me, this is just my understanding and belief system because of what I saw. There's a lot of money being circulated because of women and breast cancer.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Ovarian cancer and all this stuff, and they're telling us to fight it. The fight will keep you toxic. If you're fighting in the way that we're taught to fight. I don't know how this came to me. I don't know, but I'm so glad that it did. I literally said to myself, for the first time in my life, Subira, was not going to fight. And I was going by my given name at that time, which was Alicia. I said, I am not going to fight. All I have to do is keep breathing. And what I chose to do was to allow my spirit, that's how I got to know who Subira was. I said, I'm going to allow that part of me to come to the forefront and allow spirit to do this battle for me, because I can't fight cancer. I knew that. And whatever they were saying out there, I already knew that was nothing that I could do. And so I took a step back. I laid on the couch. I got in the infusion chairs, and I allowed spirit to fight for me. And what that allowed was a shift in my perspective, in my paradigm, and a softness around my interpretation of the word fight.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. I know cancer carries more weight a lot of times for those of us who know people or have lost a loved one to it. But there are also other ways that it shows up in the physical, like asthma. Because when I shared my story, I was talking about, shutdown of my chest. I couldn't breathe. The other ways that it's shown up in my body is blocked visions, which is what the fibroids represent. Aborted visions, aborted dreams, deferred, unexpressed anger and rage. They show up as these polycystic ovaries, these different things that in the nurturing organs, particularly for women, as we talk about the feminine business model. And this is why it's just very important that I don't want to do business the way that the masculine has done business. That doesn't work for me. Right. I don't want to go hard or go home. No, screw that. That doesn't work for me. I come from a line of women who worked hard like that, who scrubbed floors, who worked in kitchens, burning their hands, who my mother did it so I wouldn't have to, and I'm going to stand on that.
Ah, yes, yes.
So, and her mother did things so that she wouldn't have to do it. And so why are we still, in the name of quote unquote success and achievement, sacrificing our body parts? Because we don't know. And so, you know, it's not popular. And so I applaud you for talking about the commercialization of disease. I mean,
how about that?
You know, check out Sonia Barrett's The Business of Disease. If somebody's watching today and you're paying for medicine, or you're saying you can't because of something else that's going on, that's an opportunity to shift. Check out Sonia Barrett, the Business of Disease, where cancer is called out. And my friends that have and clients who have recovered from cancer, they are calling the thing a thing, as Iyanla Van Zandt says. Call the thing a thing. It is a commercialization. It's not popular, but to speak to things that that you know. But you know, we could go on and on about that. Sandra, do you have anything to share as far as giving up this fight? Because it seems to be a theme in our message today.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were like doing very well in this conversation. You know, Subira, I can relate to fight, because even though, you know, the martyr and the innocent, being what I consider a conqueror of domestic violence and sexual assault, not a survivor.
Oh, yeah.
Just survive.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes,
I conquered. I mean, because to me, surviving, you're still in it. I didn't survive. I conquered it. I went to the other side and I started fighting, because, again, my mentality was no one's going to ever control me. No one's going to ever tell me what to do. So I went from one extreme to the other. I went from being, you know, the powerless to being powerful, but powerful maybe in not such a good way. So I, like you, fought all the time. I fought my way on my jobs. I fought to be the best. I fought, you know, to be the best single parent. I fought, you know, to the point where I fought myself into sickness. I remember going to work one day, and I felt like I was having a heart attack, and the doctor looked at me and said, "So what are you stressed out about?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Something is stressing you. What is it?" And he said, "Whatever that is, you have to let it go, because that's what's causing it. The stress." And I'm like, well, okay. And I couldn't wrap my brain around what he was saying, because to me, it was like, no, I'm having a heart attack. But it was stress. It was my job. I was fighting too much on the job, at home. And so we do fight a lot. And so I'm like, Latanya, I don't want to fight. It's not a fight or flight for me. It's just being in the flow. And it's taken me a long time to understand how to flow. And the only way to do it is you got to give up the fight. I mean, to me, I'm learning God differently than what I learned God, who God was, how I was taught in church. To me, God isn't a fight, flight, you know, grind. God is just simple. God is just simple. It just is. That is just is.
Well, Sandra,
that's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You know, you just said something. You know, I'm glad that we first of all we get to celebrate that we represent collaboration and partnership. That's abundant alone. That we're doing this. But you brought something that's another untouchable subject, which is domestic violence, because there's a tendency to go to what he did or she did to me in the physical. And you're saying that even that had to shift, like you shifted from victimhood even in how you saw yourself in an abusive, coming out of an abusive situation. That blesses somebody out there, because there are people who are domestic violence advocates, but they represent from the lack position.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's good to me.
Agree. Yes, they do. And can I just, since you said that, can we stop saying we're going to eradicate domestic violence? We're not eradicating it. If we all acknowledge and just understand that we have to first heal and then get in the flow of yielding our natural energy, it's going to take care of itself.
That's right.
It really, really is. I think that we're stuck on, and the reason I say not eradicate is because we're fighting to eradicate it. You can't eradicate something that you continuously are fighting.
Right. There you go. The same thing with breast cancer and all these other diseases. They're not going to find a cure. Well, there's too much money in it. Why find a cure?
Right. Yeah, seriously. I mean, really. So it's like, what I say to that is, for me, I had to really understand who I am, who the God in me really is, and begin to heal that. So when I come from a place of love, when I come from a place of healed in my mind, body, and spirit, then I can go to that woman and give her what wasn't given to me. That's how you're going to help heal domestic violence. You're going to go and give what you did, what you have now. My cup, I can go and say to somebody, okay, let me help you understand what, how to come out of this. Because honestly, until I can help me, I cannot help you. So you have to be able to stop saying fighting. I stopped fighting because I used to be like on them lines, someone, yeah, we're going to eradicate, blah, blah. Okay. And every day domestic violence is still in the news and we haven't eradicated nothing yet. And they've been saying that since what? Feminism was what, years ago? Since years ago. And we're still trying to eradicate something that's not going to be eradicated. I think if we change how we talk and see things, it's going to help the world. I always say be a rebel, and not rebel negatively, but a rebel who goes against the status quo. Don't go with the quo, go against the status quo.
And it may be perceived by some as negative, who because all positive, that's, boy, we start getting into mathematics when you really start understanding why this whole positive. You're the negative. Oh God. Okay, I want to go there.
So because we have our topic for next week.
Yeah, spirituality is mathematics, yo. Like really.
Yeah. Yep. It is. It is.
You can reach out to us and continue this conversation with us. Each one of us is providing a way for us to have baseline conversations, consultations with you, for you to start creating a pay yourself plan first. We can't emphasize that enough. This broadcast and the next broadcast. If you haven't reached out to us and you're in our tribe, reach out to us today to find out how can I take $66, $67, $69 or more and start creating some real money for myself. Mm-hmm. How can I join the Money Charmers Club? Because we're gonna. Well, how can I get
be a charmer? I'm gonna be a charmer.
Seduce your abundance, honey. And so reach out to us, share this broadcast. Let's start getting some real money clubs going that are going to bless us in the easily, the effortlessly, and the under grace.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Awesome.
So that will conclude our broadcast for today. We thank you for letting us spend your lunch with you. Don't be selfish. Share us with your lunch buddy.
Yes.
Click share on YouTube. You can reach all of us at our individual websites. It will also be in the description box. If you don't see it on the live broadcast, it will be there by the time you see the playback. I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Subira and Sandra, any closing words?
Yes, mine are breathe, believe, and move.
Oh, yes.
Breathe, believe, and move.
Woo! All right, I'm gonna end on that note. Because that was good right there, Subira. Breathe. I love it. And just remember, love is the foundation to everything that we do. Just remember that love is the foundation to everything. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
All right.
See you next week.
We'll see y'all next week, 12 o'clock Eastern, y'all.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.